Oh, yeah, I look tired. Hello, happy Monday. I am a little tardy to this party, but we're here. We're live. Uh-oh. I'm trying to. Hold on. See the ceiling for a second. Alrighty. Good afternoon. Happy Monday. We are live. So, I'm gonna sit in my chair. Oh, yes. So, I wanted to jump on here today. Bruce, I'm gonna bring you on in just a sec. Um, so we are ending Mental Health Month. And we've been doing our Mental Health Monday segments. And so, we need to kind of end the month off. No, I'm gonna get my earbud in. End the month on a bang. So we are going to bring on our therapy friend, Arisia Mosley of Puzzle Piece Counseling, and just kind of just have some just candid conversation, just kind of tie up and finish out Mental Health Monday. Yeah, I'm supposed to have a new live corner.
You
Oh,
said
it's going to go on my earbud. You can do live Sunday.
you said what?
So it's hard to bear with, but we're at our suite, and Josie, I got my little plant
I
next to
see you with the background with the scenery.
her. Ew. Yeah. So I said, oh, it's nothing but
Hey,
my
look.
new blog.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
With the blue accent wall.
Yes. Let me show y'all. That's our blue accent wall. We got a
Okay.
little. So my dad came in today to help me finalize some stuff and get the rest of the stuff put up. And, so, we we. So how's your Monday going?
It's going. I'm over here recovering from COVID, but we making
Yeah,
it. We making
that's
it.
gonna be my next post because we had last night at work we had, well, that I counted, it was probably more, but the ones that I counted, we had 5 positive ones.
Mm, listen,
So
it's not
don't
fun.
worry,
Not
I'm
fun
gonna
at
keep it.
all.
It's not. We've been there. I've been there. So
Mhm.
so Friday, um, some of you have known. Y'all probably see my stories and probably saw my live. Um, and oh, side note, the FedEx guy is here for my other chair. So if I get up and you hear the knock, it's because I seen him downstairs. He's like, I got another one. And so I told him my suite and he was gonna bring it up. So
Okay.
just FYI.
So you
Um,
upgrading your chair?
no, I'm getting the second one. I
Oh, okay.
needed two of them. So it's being delivered today. So hence why I look a little bit half of a minute. But it's okay. Filters are back. So Friday, I was able to be a vendor at the Dream Performance Mental Health and Physical Wealth Forum.
Hmm.
And hey, Victor. So it was such an amazing forum with um, different mental health providers, and I learned a lot about it. I'm not a mental health provider. I do deal with mental health patients a lot because I'm an ER nurse, but that's just not my lane. So I have to know about a lot of things when it comes to mental health, but that's just not my area.
Right.
But I learned that I learned about the proper term for generational curses.
Hmm.
We'll touch on that in a minute. I also learned just about, we touched on the difference between mental health for different mental health providers.
Right.
So social workers, psychologists,
Mm-hmm.
psychiatrists, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of what each one is able to do. And I know in one of our lives we kind of touched on that a little bit.
Right.
Um, but it was so insightful for me because I was just like, oh, this is the thing. Like I knew it was a thing,
Right.
but
Right.
like I
Right. Right.
know you as a licensed marriage family therapist. Oh, okay. Okay. You can put it right there and I'll just fly right here. Thank you kindly. I appreciate you. Have a good rest of the day. I'm looking forward to tomorrow's dinner. I'm glad I warned y'all. I told you it was going. He was on his way.
You getting the same one, the same exact chair?
Yes, I just need a second one.
Okay.
So we bougie. We have a size shift. Okay. So when you
Okay.
come to Eudaimonia, it's a full experience. Okay. But we ain't here to talk about
Yes.
it today. But understand, it's an experience when you come to Eudaimonia Wellness. We ain't no
Yes.
average wellness spa. Okay. 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 So back to what we're saying. So the forum was very insightful for me.
Mhm.
So since we already do, yes, Ashley is here. The second one, our space is about to be ready. Okay, excited. Um, so for me to um be in on that conversation, I was like, it made me want to expand our mental health Mondays more because
Mhm.
there are really a lot of things. There's just a lot to mental health, and I feel like people just don't
Right.
really um, unpack unpack it like it should be.
Mhm. Well, that's because people are just starting to talk about it, right? Like.
That's what I wanted to start with. So it's May. May is Mental Health Month.
Mhm.
So how have you noticed this month and people having the awareness of mental health, and what change have you seen from this year to previous years when it comes to understanding mental health and
I
having
think it's.
a
I think the pandemic was kind of like a push, right? Because so many people were separated. We were alone. Like we couldn't be with other people, and so we had to sit and be by ourselves. I think our generation, just in general, we've been kind of like putting our toes in it and talking about it and breaking the stigma, and then the pandemic just kind of like broke the door open. If you say, I just think people are becoming more comfortable with talking about it, more comfortable with getting help. And I think we're slowly breaking that stigma of what mental health is. Because a lot of times before, which we're still fighting that battle, is when people hear mental health, they go to mental illness and they don't realize that it's two different ball games. It's two different things. And so I think people are starting to see, okay, mental health is just like other pieces of health. Like, just like your physical health, it's just a piece of you. And so I think our generation and the people that's coming after us, I think the people coming after us are louder than us, actually. They're like, they're getting into mental health. They're taking care of their mental health. They're going to therapy. They're taking care, they're doing stuff. And I think the difference is we're being open to it. Like we diving into it, and we're being open with it, and we're talking about it, and we're having these kind of conversations. And the event that you had on Friday, like it's like that kind of stuff is happening, especially in our community, because I think that's been happening, right? Like stigmas of mental health it's been like broad, but I feel like other communities have embraced it before we have, and because of our history, of course. But I think that's the difference is in our community, we having these people who are leaders, who are having these licenses, who have the credentials. We are starting to like reach back and have these kind of talks and forums, and I think that's helped a lot.
okay. So keeping the conversation open, keeping the lines of communication open, and has really helped, I guess, to be more awareness. So you have people who are, like you touched on, that are licensed professionals, and
Mm-hmm.
then you have like one of the guys there who's a mental health advocate.
Mm-hmm.
So then you have those individuals who don't have necessarily like the credentials, I guess what you say, but it's just a person who is very knowledgeable
Passionate. It's kind of like,
and
having the people on the front lines, right? Like of the civil rights movement. It's people who are on the front lines who are advocating for the benefits of the cause. And
right,
that's what the mental health advocates are. And so, like you said, like they don't have the license or credentials, but there's just as important.
right. So they're allowing to be a space for people to come to them and say, "Oh, let's talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let me help you get help for this."
Right. Because that's what breaks the stigma. That's what gets the conversation going and keeps it going is having those spaces. And sometimes what people don't talk about too, people with licenses and credentials, it can be intimidating for other people, right? Like for people who are just entering the space, which is why we have a ethics and laws that we have to follow. Because when a client comes to you, they put you in a position of power subconsciously, right? Like you're in a position like when you go to a doctor, you you I guess appreciate their expertise. It's the same thing when a client comes to us. That's why, like I said, we have to follow these ethics because we are in a sense of power and you can't abuse that power. And so I think mental health advocates, it kind of gives people a space to go to someone who may not be as intimidating for some people.
So that's interesting because I guess I didn't think about it like that. So how? So okay, let's talk there. So we discussed about how you have to find your fit when it comes to a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that comes with like shopping around, and then
Right.
you say like it puts you in a space of power, and people can be intimidating. Is it because they have to be vulnerable and they know that that can be challenging for them, or how can it kind of? I guess I'm wanting to know like how is a therapist able to abuse that situation
Okay,
for
so
somebody
when
who's
I think about that, I'm thinking about like one of our ethics, right? Well, I'm a marriage and family therapist, so I'm talking about my ethics. There's different boards for each license. So for my ethics is the door relationships, which is two relationships. Like a therapist is not allowed to be friend. Like I couldn't counsel you because we're friends. I know you outside of this relationship. So it's called a door relationship. That's when the therapist and the client is one relationship, and then our second relationship would be the friendship. That is not allowed because of that power. And the power is I can influence. I don't have the same object to you in your situation that I would to somebody I have no idea. Like I don't know them, right? So abusing that power is I'm already in this position of, okay, I have the credential, I have the license. Oh, let me go ask Risk her opinion about this because she has the license and the credential about this. When you go to your therapist, they shouldn't have no like knowledge outside of the things that you bring into the room. If that makes sense. Like I know a bunch of stuff, right? So it's
right.
yeah, like I wouldn't be able to be. Because I care about you outside of that relationship. I have like opinions, right, about anything about you because I care about you. I care about my clients, but it's a different type of care
Yeah,
than
I
my
get it.
friends, right?
Mhm.
And so it's that abuse of power because you listen to what I have to say. Well, I hope most of my clients listen to what I have to say, right? Like I give them my opinion, professional opinion, and a lot of times what I hear from my clients is, "Oh, I heard your voice tell me this," right? If we
Mhm.
had a different relationship, it
I hear that
confuses
too.
things, it muddies
Mhm.
things, and that's different. And then it's a trickle effect. Like, oh, well, you told me do this, or you told me do that, and like, wait, I didn't. It's like it's best to just keep things in one relationship, and so that's why it's the power is you view your therapist, their opinions, their thoughts, their advice, even though therapists don't give advice, but you view those sessions as a sacred space. And so that's the power that comes with it. And if you add other things into it, that's what makes it harder.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. So I guess then when it comes to finding your fit,
Mm-hmm.
um, I feel like we need to do a segment on that. Find your fit.
That'll
Uh,
be good. That's a good one. Yeah, because a lot of times, even like I tell my clients at the beginning, like in my spiel, right? Like I'm not gonna be for everybody, and that's okay. Like you won't hurt my feelings. Now, I am gonna challenge your thought of why you think we aren't a good fit. Like, if someone comes to me and say, "Well, I don't think this is working," like, okay, what do you think is going on? Like, and if a client in the past, I don't want to speak on specific, but it's like in the past, like things that like, oh well, I'm not making progress fast enough. Wait, hold on. Like, that's not how therapy works. And then, so it's a dialogue, but I think you have to feel comfortable enough with your therapist to have those conversations, right? And that goes back to the power thing. A lot of clients are scared, like, oh, I don't know how to tell my therapist I don't think we're a good fit. And so that's why I make sure as soon as I start that relationship, you're not gonna hurt my feelings. Like I promise. I'm not ever for everybody and you're not for everybody. And that's okay. And I think clients just have to be empowered to say, I don't know if this is working for me. And like, you're not gonna find it on first time all the time. Like, I'm on my second therapist right now. Like, it's just how things go.
so I guess I feel like, and this is from the client's perspective. I
Right,
guess I can see like finding your fit. Like you have to shop around. Just like they use the analogy when it comes to a spouse or when it comes to
right,
friendships. You have to shop around. But I feel like because when you're having these conversations with people and it's a lot of vulnerable information, I feel like then people get discouraged and they're just like, well, I didn't share my whole life with this person, even in
right.
one person, and then it's not working for me. So like how could you guide somebody in navigating that, finding your fit when it comes to finding the right fit?
I think so. I've been in that spot, right? Because I've said that, like, man, I don't want to start over. Like with, I'm like, actually, my therapist just stopped doing private practice, so I was kind of like forced. But it's just like I don't want to start over. I don't want to have to tell my story all over again. That's why I think it's important to, I guess, figure it out. The sooner you figure it out, the sooner you need to make that jump, right? Like eventually, if you're gonna shop around, you're gonna have to tell your story in more than one space. Now that's it just sucks about that part about it. But I think being honest, one with the therapist and having them, because what I like to do, me personally, is I check in every 3 or 4 sessions, right? Like how are things going? How are you liking it? What are our goals still the same? Is they like I do a little check in. And so I think if you ask your therapist, like, can you check in with me? Because then that kind of takes the power, not the power, but it takes the pressure off of you to be responsible to change therapists. It puts it on the therapist. Like, hey, can you check in with me every 3 or 4 sessions just to see where we are? And I would say to the person who's like, like, I don't want to have to tell my life story all over again. But I think for the long run, it's worth it because you don't want to be stuck in a relationship with your therapist and you're not making the growth that you need to make because you're not with the right therapist. And that's what's going to happen. You're going to look up and it's going to be a year later and you're kind of going to still be in that same spot. And I will say sometimes you are in that same spot, but you're different, if that makes sense. Like you've made small changes. So yeah, it might feel like you're still stuck a year later, but if you're with the right therapist, you're going to be making strides. It's some kind of strides. But if you're not with the right therapist, you're going to waste, you're basically wasting your time and money, right? Like if that's how you want to spend it, like you don't want to waste your time and money with the wrong therapist because you're not going to grow like you would if you were with the right fit. And it sucks. It does. It don't feel good, but that's a part of the process.
So I know there's no blanket answer for this.
Hmm.
So what I get in my thoughts, I'm like, okay, well, how long do you think you need to be with somebody before you decide this is the right fit?
You
Because I
said
feel
what?
like some people be like, after one session, then they like, this
Well,
should this ain't
sometimes
work.
though, right? Sometimes the vibes is just not right. Like you can tell like this not gonna work. Like if the first session you are now there's like normal anxiety about going to therapy for the first time because you're going to talk to a stranger. But after that first session, if you still having the same amount of anxiety, like you don't get no type of comfortability, like you don't have no type of relief, I would say, give it one more session and then see how things go. Because sometimes it's a vibe, it's a feeling, off rip, like this not gonna work. But if you still like, I don't know if I should give up, I say try it two. Like I said, I check in every 3 or 4 sessions. So I would say sometimes sometimes you don't. Like you say, it's not a blanket answer. Like I think go off of your gut feeling will not steer you wrong. And like I said, if you're still feeling like you don't feel no better, like you don't feel no comfortable talking to this person after the first session, that may be like, I don't know. Unless you're struggling with like debilitating anxiety. That's a whole different thing. That's why I say it's not really a blanket term, but I think you like just like when you meeting a friend, right? Like if you meet somebody for the first time, like, oh, we can be good friends. Or you be like, yeah, that's not my cup of tea. That's not my type of person. It's the same kind of concept, like with a therapist. If you know, like, yeah, we wouldn't like I tell my clients all the time, like, if we weren't therapists and clients, I feel like we would be good friends. And that's a good sign because that means we have a good relationship. So if I feel like if I have a client and I'm like, we probably now you're not gonna vibe with every client. Like I wouldn't be cool with all of them. But I feel like on a professional level we're a good match. But it's the same kind of concept. Like, so if you meet somebody and like, yeah, we probably this ain't gonna work. And that's okay. Like just tell the therapist, like, yeah, I don't think this is gonna work.
So how would that conversation go? Because I feel like some people may have either one experienced it and didn't really know how to say it, or they may be having that feeling about their therapist and they like, okay, so what do I say?
I had a client leave me and go to someone else, but it was after I had been working with the client for maybe 2 months. And so it was kind of like I would say, like the client just was like, I feel like I found someone who's a better fit for me. Okay, and it came out of left field for me. I had no idea, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, well, and we talked about it. Okay, what was going on? What did you like? What did you didn't like? I didn't take it personal. I kind of we had our final session. That session was our final session. We kind of talked about what they liked and what they didn't like, where they grew and where they didn't grow, and how this other person is a better fit for them. And I kind of just guided them through the conversation. But they were, they felt empowered, which made me feel good that person felt empowered enough to tell me like, we're not a good fit. Right. Which, truth be told, I was kind of having those same thoughts. I just hadn't got to the place to make that jump yet. And so it's like, I think if you're feeling those feelings, be honest with your therapist. Like, because us in this profession, we just want to help. And so we're not going to be offended. We're not going to get upset. Like, oh, I can't believe you. Like, a good professional is going to help guide you through that. So just, if you're not sure what to say, just like, I'm kind of having thoughts of, I don't know if this is really working for me, or I don't know if we're a right fit. I'm still trying to figure it out. And just like those little one-liners, and let your therapist do the rest of the work. I mean, you're going to do it with them, but just throwing it out there to them like, I don't know if we're a good fit. I'm kind of thinking after our session, I don't know if I'm really growing how I want to grow, and just let them take over.
So okay. So people who have confrontation issues. Because some people that confrontation.
And so that's why I say it's important to be honest with your therapist from the beginning, right? Because if I have a client that I know is not comfortable with that confrontation, tell me. I would like, if you tell them like, hey, I'm not really too good with confronting, I'm not too good with confrontation, can you please check in at session 3? So you give the therapist that responsibility at the beginning, right? Like, so if you tell them at the beginning, like, hey, can you please check in at session 3 or 4 to see if this is a good fit for me? Because I'm not going to do well. I'm not going to say anything and I'm just going to stay. Like, that would be my suggestion, is to tell them up front that you're not going to be comfortable to say that, and have them have that responsibility. Some therapists, and I think most therapists should be okay with that. Like, they should be like, yeah, I could do that.
So basically, your first initial visit should kind of set the tone.
Yes.
For
yes.
What?
Like, that's what I said. Like,
I would just call you and be like, "Girl, I'm not coming back."
Yeah, you probably would tell them like, yeah, this ain't gonna work. This ain't. But yeah, like I think the first session set the tone for the relationship. That's why I was saying, like, after that first session, if you still like you still iffy about that person, I don't know if that relationship, I'm not saying it's gonna be instant with everybody, but you should at least get some type of reprieve, like some type of release a relaxation. So I think that first session sets the tone. Tell them the first session, like, I'm not good with confrontation, but I really want to heal. I really want to do the work. And so can you check in with me at session 4 to see if we're still a good fit for each other? And I think if you like was to say that to a therapist, I think they would be okay with that.
That's interesting. So I asked these questions because I said, you know what? Friday, I was like, I'm gonna actually look for a therapist. I think I want a male therapist, and I have my own thoughts and feelings about it, but that's
Mm-hmm.
just me. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like it'll just work better for me and my
Yeah.
personality life.
Right.
I need, I'm emotional, women be emotional. We can't be two emotional people, and then it's just not gonna work. So let me be somebody who's unattached.
Right.
But like, I'm not gonna come into session and say I don't think this is working. I'm gonna call you and be like, girl, this did not work. I got
And
to sit another day in a session with you that I don't feel like it's bothering.
right. What you okay, but if you get that feeling in session, you would say something. Or you don't
Well,
think
but
you
no, then I might go home and be like,
oh, like after reflecting? I
yeah,
mean, but I don't think that's a bad thing either. Now some people just don't come back, right? Like I've had people just not come back. And that's fine too. I just
mm,
it's either what we see in that and what we say is either it's a couple of reasons why people just don't come back. Either you weren't a good fit for them or they just wasn't ready to do the work. Like or they're just not ready. And so you could just not go back. Or if you want to give them the
oh no, I'm gonna
courtesy,
tell you.
yeah, like you can send an email, you can call, you can send an email. I think, like I said, I don't think because we're in this profession to help, and so I don't think most therapists. I've heard stories of therapists being offended. I've heard from clients like therapists getting upset, but I think a good professional is not going to be offended. They're not going to be offended that you're like we're not a good fit for each other. They should help you because that's what I'm in a profession for. I'm here to help. Like I want you to be the best version of you. And if I can't help you reach that, I'm gonna let you fly and go find somebody else. So I think, any type of communication is good. You can ghost them, you can email them, you can call them, whatever you feel comfortable with. But like I said, I think most people who ghost, like you said, they're not good with confrontation. And so just tell the therapist up front, like, I want you to do it for me. I want you to do the check-in. And then after a while, hopefully you learn skills to be able to to embrace confrontation, but you have to get there. You have to stay in therapy long enough to learn those skills.
See, and that's the thing. So it was a good thing what they said on Friday was therapy is not. It's a journey,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to be willing to be on that journey
You have to
for as
be
long as it takes.
as long as it
Some
takes.
people feel that
Like I said, like I've had
therapy's
clients
going
who
to
like
fix me.
I'm not making yeah, right, fix me, like I'm not making progress like I should, and I've had to be like baby, this is not a sprint. Like it's gonna take us some time. It's sometimes it's gonna feel like we may be taking steps back, and that's a part of the process. It's a journey. It's a process, and it's not gonna be easy. It's not gonna be quick and fast because society wants everything to be quick and fast, but that's not how therapy works. It's slow and steady, and that's how you make the true progress. We gotta fine tooth it.
So do you, in your opinion, because I mean I know my opinion, but in your professional opinion, do you feel that some people need lifelong, like it's a lifelong thing for them?
I think so.
Is that
I
the
think
thing?
so. And there's nothing. Yeah, and then it's not gonna look the same throughout the whole period, right? Like sometimes you're gonna go once a month. Like me personally, I see my therapist every 2 weeks now, but before I was seeing my previous therapist once a month because or as needed. Like I'll just drop in when I need to. Like it's going to shape shift like as you grow throughout life. Sometimes you're gonna need to see them every week. Sometimes you're gonna need to see them once a month, but that's not for everybody. But I think some people are gonna have to have that space, right? That space for just them for an hour for the rest of their life. And that's not a daunting thing. That sounds so daunting, but it's not. Like because that time is for you, it's dedicated to you, you get everything you need, it's all about you. And so I think it's a good thing, truthfully. And that's why I don't try to rush. There's some therapists who won't see people, past 12 weeks, right? Like they just won't. But I'm not gonna put it into it. And that's one of the reasons why I'm not too keen on like insurance and stuff, but that's a whole nother conversation too. But like, so I'm not gonna put a label on it. I'm not gonna rush it. I'm just gonna let it flow to be what it's gonna be.
Because there'd be some people I just be like, you really sit on somebody's couch and talk. And I tell people
Yeah.
that you need
Yeah.
to go sit on somebody's couch and you need to talk about it.
Yeah. Because
But
I
you
mean, like,
can't come and talk to me because I'm not trained in that way. Okay, I can give you my advice, but I am not trained. And sometimes you
right.
don't hear what I got to
Like
say.
like
It
people,
doesn't
I
come
think
from that.
a lot of people underestimate that hour just for you. Like you talking to something, like it's different. It's a difference when you talking to your friends versus a therapist, right? Like the therapist, yes, you're paying them, but it's an hour, 50 minutes to 60 minutes usually sessions range. Just talking about like you, it's just dedicated to you. Like, and you don't get that. Like your friends don't have an hour to sit there and talk to you all the time. Yes, they do sometimes, but not all the time. So that's I'm like, people underestimate the power of it. It's just like it feels good. It feels rewarding to get that time.
You know, today was topic was find your fit. I
Mm-hmm.
like it. So another thing, the last thing I wanted to kind of cover was the whole I learned about the proper term for generational curses. And that's
Mm-hmm.
a whole nother lie that we don't have to say.
Mm-hmm.
But it was called interpersonal, was it interpersonal
Interpersonal
relationships?
relationships. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm using that right. And so it's a very touchy topic, especially within the Black community,
Mm-hmm.
because the interpersonal relationships that you have with your family, it can be a little, you know,
Mm-hmm.
tough to navigate.
It's a
So
touchy subject.
it is. So because we're either seen as disrespectful
Mm-hmm.
or we're seen as, you're a child, you stay in your place.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to have those open lines of communication. What happens in this house stays in this house. We don't talk about our past. These are all conversations I've had with, people that are older than me in my family. The
Mm-hmm.
mistakes of those things. And I'm like, no, I'm done. First off, there's a way to not be disrespectful, but you should
Right.
allow me to be able to have a conversation.
Right.
And so someone who's dealing with difficult interpersonal relationships, when going to a therapist to find their fit, what would be your suggestion on how to kind of navigate into that arena?
What you mean, like to that conversation, or finding someone who like have the same thoughts or align with your views on that?
Not necessarily to have line with your thoughts, but like if like my goal is I have an issue with interpersonal relationships in my family, whether it's my mom, whether it's my grandparents, I need to talk to somebody about how to deal with that. But how do you find a therapist to either have that conversation, or how do you navigate to somebody to how to deal with that? Okay, we're
Okay,
gonna
like
go to
find
that
somebody who like
therapist.
have the not expertise but have some knowledge about it or deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. Most therapists, the first session they will tell you like what they're good with, what they usually deal with. But if not, I would say ask them like, do you have any experience in this area? Like, do you have any thoughts of or how do you handle this or how do you deal with that? I would just ask them if they have experience with dealing with those relationships, which most people do. But I know me specifically, like I said, I'm a marriage and family therapist. So how we approach therapy is through the system. And so a marriage and family therapist will probably 9 times out of 10 have a lot of experience with that, because our whole program is designed about working with the systems within the family and relationships and all of that. But I would ask, people with different licensure and credentials, which a lot of people we learn about it. So I would just say, hey, do you have any experience, or what's your experience? Do you like working with clients with this? Have you helped clients in the past deal with this? Like, I would just ask them, what their expertise is.
So there's just a lot of avenues to finding your fit.
Mm-hmm.
Like what I got from it, you have to make sure that you're comfortable with having the conversation. I know we've talked in the past about like where to find a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually working in the background. I'm just like compiling a list of. I didn't realize that I know so many people that are therapists. I thought I was one of the people, but
Because
I
it's
know
different,
a
right?
lot of
Different
therapists.
credentials, different that you don't even that people a lot of people don't really even know about. Because they just think of psychologists and doctors, like they don't know like the each criteria and licensure and certification.
I don't know what but there are social workers,
Mm-hmm.
LMFTs.
Mm-hmm. LPCs,
So what's that?
psychologists, psychiatrists.
What's the
There's
LPC?
it's a licensed professional counselor, and that's I guess they like the when people think of counselors, those are the ones they think about, like LPCs, because that's the like a general thing.
Okay. I think of LPC as a school counselor.
A lot of school counselors are LPCs, but they have other credentials too. Like it just depends. But yeah, school counselors are either their LPCs or they're working towards their LPCs.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, they were talking about like, make sure you go to the right person that has the right credentials that you need.
Because like I said, we all approach therapy. I mean, we all have the same goal, but we just approach it differently. Right? Like I said, I am a marriage and family therapist, so we look at things as a system. We look at everything. And then I won't speak for other, like I know a little bit about each credential and their path, but I don't come ask me about how to become an LPC because that's not the path I took. I don't know. I don't know how to become a social worker because that's not the path I took. But I know, a little bit about how they view therapy, but I'm not the expertise on that. I can't tell you. You would have to ask them. I can tell you how I view therapy and how I learned to view it. But yeah, I think we all approach therapy a little bit different, but we have some similarities too. And so I think that's important to know, like you said, like, well, what I want to gain out of therapy. A lot of us have learned the same models or tools, and we only kind of put our spin on it. But if you want somebody, like you said, somebody who's dealing with like different generations, I will go to a marriage and family therapist. But then it depends on the person. Like I'm not gonna sit here and tell you you need to go find, because you might go and meet a marriage and family therapist and y'all ain't a good fit, but then you go see an LPC and y'all are a good fit. So I don't really like, and that's I don't like really dividing people and telling them like go to this area because it puts you in a box, right? Like it puts you. Then most people feel like, oh man, I gotta find an LPC that I'm a good fit with, and they might not be your good fit. They might not be a good fit for you. So I say just shop around, read, ask people what their credentials are, ask them what they have experience with, what they feel comfortable with, and if it sounds like something that you can vibe with, then see where it goes.
It's good to know. Because see me, I, you need to go see a specialist. You need to go see a GI doctor. You need to go see a neurologist. Them are the
Right,
ones you need to
right,
go see. That they are gonna take care of the stuff that you need.
right, right.
Yeah. It's not a blanket thing. I get it. Okay. So these sessions are good for me uh, because they allow me to be able to speak to clients and customers and people who have questions. But I tell them that, but that's not my language. But I can give you a little bit of what I know.
Right, right. And that's how I think we break the stigma is by like people doing that, right? Like, I don't really have the information. I'm gonna give you the information that I have, and then you can go and
I
lead the
could
rest of
have
it.
talk to you from that. But I enjoyed having the conversation. Today was our conversation about finding your fit.
Mm-hmm.
About how you, and we didn't even say we were gonna talk nothing about that, but it's
We
okay. It
did it. See how it happened? It just happened.
happened. So we discussed, like what's a great way to find your fit is what as far as when it comes to a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
I'm trying to figure out how to structure these mental health Mondays. Like, should it be once a month? Should it be twice a month? I guess I need to kind of get a feel
little
for, like, I don't want it to be overkill.
mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think once a month is good. I think we've been doing it at least once a month. If we can do twice a month, that'll be good too. But I think once a month is, is good. It'll give people something to look forward to. Or, we can start opening it up for questions or people like
Mm-hmm.
beforehand, like if you want us to talk about certain things.
Mm-hmm.
So
Could do
just
that.
figure, I guess, what the response is. But I think once a month is good.
Yes, and I definitely want to bring on some other providers too to get different
Right.
perspectives. I also met a lady. She deals with I don't know what her title is, so if you watch this again, don't I apologize because I don't know what you call yourself. But she deals with energies.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, that could be an interesting perspective to kind of how mental health, because I feel like it all plays along.
Mm-hmm.
People
Well,
go
that's why you
through
have a lot of
these things
therapists
like
who
that.
are also certified in yoga, and like that's why I was saying like each you can find somebody with a certain certification, but each therapist
Mm-hmm.
they add their own certifications like yoga, and I never heard of the energies one. I have to look that one up, but
Mm-hmm.
sounds
She
good.
does. She deals with like Reiki and chakras and
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
all of that. So I was like, that would be an interesting perspective. I know a lot of people who are really into that. And I
Right.
know a girl who I went to school with, actually, I can reach out to her. She just got certified in like Reiki therapy, something like that. Whatever you call it. I don't know. And I don't know what the term is for.
Mm-hmm.
But just to kind of have like, different perspectives. Like one of the
Right.
guys on Friday, he's a male. Having a
Mm-hmm.
male perspective when it comes to different things.
Different.
Having
Right.
someone who is, a doctor of psychology is that, just different
Mm-hmm.
ways for people to have conversations, to keep them conversations open.
Right.
And eventually we're gonna have to do an in-person forum. But let me get my life in order for me to be able to do that.
We can start with the virtual. We can start with virtual and see. That might be really good. Yeah, I'm excited about that. That might be really really good.
Okay. So if y'all have any topics y'all would like us to discuss or any ideas that you have, like, we're very fluid. I want Eudemonia's mental health pillar to be, not just what I feel like you should know, but what y'all feel like y'all would like to see.
Right, right, right.
If I'm working on getting a psychiatrist
Mm.
to come and talk as well. I realize I do know one. So um, I know a little bit of everybody. I realize. When I had to sit down and think, I was like, ooh. And then one of the ladies that worked with me at Parkland, I met up with her on Friday. She was at the event.
Mm-hmm.
And
See,
she's a
use your
mental
connections and.
she's a psychiatric nurse practitioner.
Mm-hmm. And see, that's an
So
interesting thing in itself too.
mm,
That'd be dope.
so I was like, okay, Friday really gave me a whole like, oh, okay, I can do this, I can do this. So I like this. So
Mm-hmm.
again, thank you to Dream Performance for allowing me to be a part of that event. Um, they my Fort Worth friends, y'all. Okay, so if y'all in the Fort Worth area and y'all need a gym, Dream
I
Performance
do
is
need
where you
to
need to
contact
go.
him. I've been slacking. James, if you
Studio
watch this,
E
like I
Fit.
promise I didn't forget about you. I still have the email saved and everything for the plan. I'm just lazy.
Mm-mm.
And I just haven't. But I need to. I need to contact him. Because he does virtual too. Like he's in Fort Worth, but my
Oh, I
plan will
didn't
be
see the
virtual.
picture.
Yeah, because he would train. I met with him before I gave birth and everything. That was a year ago. That's crazy. But yeah,
Oh,
so yeah, he does virtual. So my plan would be virtual. So
hmm.
if you're not in
Well,
Fort Worth,
you can hit up Dream Performance. They're on social media. James is the trainer, one of the trainers there, and co-owner of Dream Performance. They also have Elin. She's the owner of Studio eFit. She does yoga and cycling. Y'all, if you, I'm going to do a
oh,
health
that'd be
fair
dope.
initiative, and I
Mm-hmm.
am going to have her come and do cycle. She brings these bikes with her. I'm just gonna figure out what I'm gonna do with it.
She
She
brings the
traveled
bike.
with a bike. Yeah, she got a trailer and everything. And she traveled with the bike. So shout out to Elin with Studio E Fit. Because yes, and the classes is good, okay? The playlist be good, the classes be good. Like you gotta
Okay.
have outlets. And
Yeah.
for some people, exercise in the outlet. Yoga,
Mm-hmm.
cycle.
That's a
You
part of
gotta
taking
have a
care of
choice.
your mental health.
It
See?
is.
Mm-hmm.
So
Physical health
I'm,
is
I'm
part of
working
your
with it. I'm working with it. Just
mm-hmm.
let me sit down and sit with myself and get my life together. So let everyone know where they can find you, how they can connect with you.
Puzzle Piece Counseling. I'm usually mostly on Instagram. Puzzle Piece Counseling. Website is puzzlepiececounseling.org. All of my phone numbers and all of that is on my website, which is puzzlepiececounseling.org.
And let them
I'm
know
not
about
accepting I'm not accepting clients right now, but I do have a wait
your
list. I'm
work.
hoping to. Yeah, we're working on it. I'm hoping to open that up soon. I have a 100% digital self care planner. It goes from June to May of next year, and I'm actually have a 50% sale right now, using the code self love. And I also have some other 100% digital mental health stuff coming. So be on the lookout.
Yeah, that's just kind of like some affirmation cards. We're about to make it.
Yeah.
Eudaimonia wellness and mental health pillar about to be hot. But
Yeah.
yes, like she says, she's dope. She has her class is amazing. Shout out to Ashley for introducing me to Elin and connecting us. It's power in connecting and networking and
Listen,
one people.
there's definitely power in it. That's how you get
It
the word out.
is. It is. So I appreciate you for joining us on our Mental Health Monday segment, even though, I look like I need some sleep on this Mental Health Monday. But okay. We're gonna push through.
Mm.
So yes, definitely send me the link, like the official link, so I can post it on my page.
Well, the link for what?
Your Etsy store.
Oh, okay. I will.
Like I got it, but I didn't know if it made any changes, so I want to post it.
No. Okay. I'll send it to you.
So yes. So
Thank
thank you
you
guys
for
for joining
having
us
me.
today. Of course, we will set up our time for June. It's a terrible month for me, but
Yeah,
we will
we
set
might
up.
not be able to do a Monday, but we'll figure it out. We'll get one in.
We'll get one next month. I'm gonna structure it. I'm gonna be consistent to make sure that every month we get at least
Yeah.
one in. It might
Okay.
not be a Monday. It might just be a mental health conversation day.
That works too. That
So,
works.
well, guys, thanks for joining. Zariskia, thanks for popping in today on the live.
All right. Thank y'all. Bye.
We'll see y'all next time.